Do you have some kind of sleep difficulties? For example, cannot sleep very well, wake up often in the middle of the night, and you want to do sleep study, you check out a lot of different things. Doctors could not find anything wrong with you and there's no treatment really works for you. If that's true, have you ever checked out your vitamin level? So vitamin deficiency may be related to some kind of sleep difficulties.
I am sitting with a group of 1,000 people who do not sleep, and we don't have an answer. And they don't have sleep apnea. They just wake up, can't go back to sleep. They're young, healthy females generally. I'm thinking about sleep on a single cell basis, which is not anything that any normal person would ever do. So now B12 might be deficient in those cells. What if these sleep disorders in these young, healthy people are really a vitamin deficiency? That would be so cool. So I start sending them off for B12 shots. And they, I don't know anything about B12 deficiency, which is a pity, because it turns out that if you go to the neurology textbooks and look for B12 deficiency, you'll find headache listed. But if you go to the neurology textbooks and you look under headache, B12 deficiency is never mentioned.
Oh, wow.
If you Google B12 deficiency, however, what you get is chronic fatigue, daily headache. Now, that to me was really challenging. For the first time, I thought, okay, maybe what we're looking at here is daily headache caused by a sleep disorder. The sleep disorder is the primary problem. But why would these women are doing paleo, they're long distance runners, they aren't unhealthy. So B12 turns out to help. And my patients start to come back. And they say, yeah, I get my B12 shot and I have 2 good nights and then 28 bad ones. There's a huge B12 literature for sleep already. So I haven't gone down that path very extensively because of what I'm going to tell you about. But it opens this whole way of thinking of it differently. Is it possible that the cells that actually run my ability to transition into these sleep phases, which, by the way, are run by neurotransmitters, is it possible that that I could be neurotransmitter deficient in some way because of a deficiency state in my body? Okay, so that's the question. We're always addressing the thing that walks in the door, and we're not really fixing the disease in the background. And I say that because by now I've been using CPAP in my patients for 4 or 5 years. And the 4th year they come back and go, I'm still wearing it. I wear it every night. But remember when the first year I was wearing my CPAP, I got down to 1 blood pressure medicine. I got off all of my pills for diabetes. My pain went away. I felt fantastic. I am still wearing my CPAP, but I do not feel as good. I'm back on 3 blood pressure medicines. So there's something getting worse. There's the disease process in the background that we have missed. We're putting a Band-Aid on it, okay? And the same thing with the sleeping pills. And so then I do a bunch of B12 levels, and everybody who's got a sleep study with me, no matter what their diagnosis is, I start to do B12 levels, thinking that maybe we could help them. And then one of my patients, who ironically was actually a sleep expert and ran a CPAP lab or a sleep lab and would give out. So she was on disability because she had so many medical problems. She said, my doctor did my vitamin D level and she gave me vitamin D. My wrist pain went away. And I said, well, okay, let's just throw it in there. I really had no focus on any vitamin. I'm not knowledgeable, but I'm drawing blood anyway. I said, let's do the vitamin D level. One of the things that was weird is in these young, healthy females, very active, very knowledgeable about their health, they had a lot of pain. They got ankle pain or knee pain or hip pain or back pain. And I really didn't think that 32-year-olds should have any pain. But their leg movements on the sleep study are not really being treated. They're there, we talk about them, but we don't talk about how they happen. So if I'm putting a CPAP mask on, I'm treating the airway paralysis. But if you think of those paralysis cells as wobbling back and forth, when they get too paralyzed, you stop breathing. When you're not paralyzed enough, your legs are moving. And it turns out there's an old walking nucleus, a very ancient walking nucleus right in that same stripe. And those periodic limb movements are actually alternating. That's why they're called periodic. And they're walking movements. Well, what if their ankle pain is because their feet are still moving while they're sleeping? And so we throw in vitamin D. And so for 4 months between August of 2009 and December of 2009, I've got D levels and B12 levels on all of these people. And I'm writing out these lab slips every night. And everybody's D is low, which is particularly ironic because it's in August to December. Like if they're going to have normal Ds, it'll be after summer.
So you got a lot of data from this.
Yes. And then 2 guys come in the last week that were open just before the Christmas break and say, I'm still using my CPAP. I use it every night, but it didn't take my headaches away. But that little note you sent me last time I was in here about my D, I went and bought the vitamin D. And about 3 weeks later, my sleep got better. My headaches went away. 2 guys, both of them tell me the same thing. They're both on CPAP. It turns out their D levels were a little higher than the women, but they both have this clinical observation. You made me take D. My sleep got better. My headaches went away. There's a guy named Walter Stump who's published in the 80s that this stripe that paralyzes has vitamin D receptors all over it. Also, the 2 parts where the clock function, the locus coeruleus and the substantia nigra, where those little dopamine cells were, that always tell us what time it is and when we're supposed to be going to sleep and transitioning, they have vitamin D receptors.
I think the challenge is how for each person to decide what exactly is lacking, what exactly vitamins they may need, and what dosage is. Sounds like those are really tricky questions.
We're all resistant to having to do it ourselves because it is overwhelming. It's complicated, but it's worth it.
So let me summarize. She mentioned 3 major ones: B5, B12, and D. So what do you think about vitamin deficiency? Have you ever checked it out for yourself? Leave me a message down below. Let me know. You can also subscribe our email newsletter for the most recent update. I'm Dr. Yishan. Thank you for watching and listening. I will see you next time. Bye.